My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through the message, that all of them may be in one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me, and that they may be one as we are one, I in them and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you have sent me and have loved them, even as you have loved me. Father, I want those who have given me to be with me where I am and to see my glory, the glory you have given me because you loved me before the creation of the world. Righteous Father, though the world does not know you, I know you, and they know that you have sent me. I have made you known to them, and I will continue to make you known, in order that the love that you have for me may be in them, and that I myself may be in them. May the Lord bless the reading and the hearing of his word.
You have a brand. Whether or not you are aware of it, whether or not you actively control or cultivated it, you have a brand. You have a characteristic way of speaking and acting and dressing that everyone kind of recognizes as quintessentially you. Now, some people really try to control that brand, right? Especially in today's kind of image-conscious world. Like Cam Newton, I'm a Panthers fan, by the way, from North Carolina. So Cam Newton was like the iconic Carolina Panthers quarterback. And he was known for the way he played on the field, like with this exuberance and joy and swagger. But he was also known for the way he dressed off the field. Like from the very first, I mean, he would dress in these, especially these outlandish hats. I mean, big and colorful. And sometimes, you know, fans would say, why don't you focus on the field a little more than on the fashion? But still, he when he came into the league from day one, he had a brand and he wanted people to know it. And you may say, well, like I said, some fans complained about that, but you go the opposite end of the extreme. There are certainly NFL quarterbacks who don't pay attention to the brand, but just focus on the field. But even that is a brand. Tom Brady, I think, is known for this. Like, just look at those steely eyes, right? Like that, that's a brand in and of itself. Or if I think about the all work, no play brand, I think it's best exemplified by Bill Belichick. Like, he always wore this cut-off hoodie to everything. Like, it's the anti-Cam Newton, right? But I would say the I don't care about my brand look is also a brand. And then, of course, you got Peyton Manning, you know, a little woo-woo from Indiana and Tennessee. And, of course, he was all business on the field. He could be intense, but off the field, well, we all know Peyton Manning's brand because we see it in like a million different commercials, right? He's cultivated this image. Can you tell I'm ready for the NFL season to get started again? So anyways, my point is, just like all these people, you have a brand. Whether or not you actively cultivate it, there's a way people experience you. And when you dress and act and speak in a way that they expect, they'll say you are on brand. But when you act or speak or dress in a way that people don't expect, they go, whoa, that's off brand. You know, like, for instance, when I show up in the office wearing a suit and tie, everyone says, is there a funeral today, Dave? Because a suit and tie is on brand for a funeral, but for me, every day, that is definitely off brand. Okay, you got it, right? And if this is true of individuals, it's also true of communities, that we have a brand. Whether communities have brands, whether they're companies or universities or even churches. Churches have a brand, a way that the community around us sees and experiences and interacts with us. And I know there's lots of people who say, well, churches and marketing, like I've heard pastors say those two words shouldn't be in the same sentence. And I understand if it's slick and so forth, I agree if it's superficial. But remember, a brand is simply how we present ourselves to the world around us. And the more clear and consistent we are in sharing who we are, then the world around us can recognize us and trust us. But if we are inconsistent or unclear, then the world around us will be equally unclear about who we are and what we're about. So about 15 months ago, so it was a pretty long stretch back, our administrative council, our church council, our leaders engaged with a company called Fishhook. That is a local-based Indianapolis company that works with churches around marketing and branding. And we invited them to come in and kind of work with us to help us get clear about who we are. And they kind of helped us see, that this is much bigger, as Ashley has said earlier, much bigger than just a new church logo. Your brand is everything about you. It's your mission. It's your values. It's the way people experience you. And they kind of showed us, kind of popular brands that are out there, right? Like you recognize, go to the next slide, you recognize all of these brands, don't you? There's not a word up there to tell you what those companies are, but it's Amazon and Apple and McDonald's and Walmart and Starbucks. Why? Because they are consistent in how they use their brand. But I would also say that they all of these companies refresh their brand every few years to stay current and relevant. So for us as a church, this is our logo that we have had since 1998 was when this logo was first developed. So almost 30 years, this has been our logo, our brand. In that 30 years, though, we have, not changed it, but we have created new sub-brands and new logos for all the different ministries of the church. We've used phrases like slogans like "Together in Christ" and "More like Christ" and "Lift" and "Find Your Place in God's Stories." And all of these logos and all of these slogans have served their time and their place. But you can see after 30 years, it starts to feel a little cluttered and a little inconsistent. And so we engage with Fishhook to kind of say, hey, we want to freshen this up. We want to reflect who we are now. And so what I liked about Fishhook is their process was kind of simple. They said the first thing we do is we listen to who you are as a church, and then we kind of clarify your core values, and then, only then do we get about design. So we don't give you a stock photo or a stock logo or cross. We really start by listening. So the first thing they did is they gathered focus groups of our leaders, and they asked them questions like, what do you love about your church? Or how are you best known in the community? And they met with us as staff and leaders and pastors and said, how do you want to be known? And what's your heartbeat, your mission? And then they even came to worship because they wanted to see what it felt like to be part of worship in this space, in this room. And after spending a few months of listening, they said, here's the core traits that we identify that we think we want to build the brand around. And I want to share these with you. They said the first thing we noticed about your church is that it's unifying. That in this world of polarization, you're working actively to bridge divides, to call people together, to remind them we're not enemies, but we share common faith and common ground, and to work to create spaces of dialogue and respect. I said, we experience you as a unifying church. I said, we also experience you as a centered church, that you put Christ at the center, that you talk about Jesus, and you recognize that Jesus is the vine that holds all the branches together. He's the North Star towards which we're oriented, and his commandments, loving God and loving others, that's the anchor that keeps us grounded. And then the third word they said was present. And this was one that I had to say, well, what do you mean by that, present? They said, well, what you mean by that, they said we wanted to say welcoming, because you welcome everyone that comes in your church, but it's more than just welcoming people. It's also being real, kind of wanting everyone to feel seen, heard, valued, but also making space for people, to wherever they might be in the journey of faith. If you're struggling with questions of faith, if you're struggling with the messiness of life, this is a good place to be. We can be real. We can be present with one another. And then lastly, they said You're a loving church. And you might say, well, aren't all churches loving? You hope so. I do hope so. But they said, what we appreciate about your church is that you lead with love. It's the first thing that we felt and experienced, and it was just a loving community. And I've truly believed that love is our greatest currency in this world as a church. And God's love changes everything. Because when God's love enters someone's life, when we lead with love, everything else falls into place. So these were the 4 traits that they kind of identified in our church. And based on these 4 traits, here's the logo that they created. You've already seen it as you came in the building today. What you'll notice about it is the central image of hearts. I said, we want, first and foremost, for people to know this is a place of love, a place where your heart is safe. And you'll also notice that heart in all of our children's branding, from ZOM Kids to Z Youth to Children's Learning Program to Rock After School Care. You can see that same heart repeated in all of those places as well, because that's the primary thing we want. We want people to know that this is a place of love. But going back to the main logo, you'll see that those hearts are oriented along a cross, because it's the cross, it's Jesus's love that centers us. Our hearts are gathered and oriented around Christ. But you also notice that cross, the little diamonds they placed at the end, it kind of points outward like arrows. Yes, we are gathered together around Jesus' love, but we're also sent out into the world to share his love with our neighbors. So this logo reflects what we think it means to be a disciple. I really like Jim Harnish's definition of a disciple. A disciple is a follower of Jesus Christ whose life is centering on loving God and loving others. The longer we follow Jesus, the more evident love of God and love of neighbor should be in our lives, right? We should be growing in those ways. And so back to the logo, those 4 hearts also carry another significance, because they reflect the 4 aspects of the great commandment that Jesus gave. Jesus said, love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Each one of those represents an irreducible part of what it means to be a person. You have a heart. You're moved by passion and compassion, by anger and joy and sadness. You have a heart. And you have a mind, a way that you think and see and understand the world around you. And of course, you have a body. We all inhabit a body in which we move and breathe and interact with the world. And all of that is animated by a soul that connects us together, connects us to our Creator, and connects us to the world around us. To borrow a phrase from Andy Crouch, every human person is a heart, soul, mind, strength complex designed for love. That's all of us. So we are meant to love God and love others with heart, soul, mind, strength. And our discipleship team then kind of took that and chose 6 words to live that out here in our church. That in worship, we love God with our hearts, and we love God with our souls through prayer, and we love God with our mind by learning, and we love God with our strength by serving, and play connects us to our neighbor. Because when you play together, you form friendships, you make connections. And in giving, we model ourselves after Jesus Christ, who laid down his life for us, right? So think of it 2, 4, 6. 2 commandments, love God and love others. 4 ways that we love with heart, soul, mind, and strength. And 6 ways we do that as a church: worship, pray, learn, serve, play, and give. 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? No one shouted Jesus, so we're not doing the job right. Oh, somebody did, but you said it really softly, so that's like it's a cheer. Anyways, but I hope you can remember that. 2, 4, 6. 2 commands, 4 ways we love, 6 ways we live that out is a church. Okay, I'm going to pause. Enough. That's our logo that we're talking about. But I want to step back and just kind of reflect a little bit on the idea of brand more broadly. I just want to offer 3 quick points. The first is this, is that a successful brand must go beyond the surface. I think that's the concern around marketing and branding, is it feels superficial, right? And I would agree with you. If it's just something we slap, on the wall or slap in the box, it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't match what's inside. The brand isn't about, it's about consistency, about being consistent not only with how we share ourselves with the world around us, but also being consistent and true to this mission of loving God and loving others. That's the brand. We have to live it down into the core of our being. I'm always reminded whenever I think about that struggle with superficiality. In his book, Uncommon, Tony Dungy, still with the football theme, he shares the story of a player of his who was really concerned about his reputation. Like everything, he was very image conscious and reputation and concerned, especially if anything bad was said about him. And Tony kind of counseled him. He said, there's a difference between your reputation and your integrity. Your reputation is other people's perception of your integrity. And of the two, there's only one you can control. You can't control how other people see you. You can only control who you are. And I would say this brand we're not trying to control how others see us. We're trying to be consistent in who we are as a church, right? It has to go down deep. You with me? Second thing, we have to acknowledge that the church's brand at large is somewhat damaged in the world. Like there's always a gap, right, between how we see ourselves and how others see us. Like we wish everyone saw us the way we saw ourselves, right? But that doesn't always happen. And so we in this room, hopefully, experience this as a loving and unifying and centering and present congregation. It's a place of love. But we have to recognize that there's lots of people out in the world and in our community who don't see the church that way. Back in 2007, so this is almost 20 years ago, there was a study authored by the Barna Group, and it was summarized in a book called Unchristian. And this is 20 years old, and they interviewed people outside the church, in particular the younger generation, which today would be like people in their 40s, right? But back then, people in their 20s, right? And they asked them to describe their perceptions, their experience of the church. And I'll give you a hint. They did not choose words like unifying, loving, centering. In fact, this book, it was pretty devastating to the church at the time, because by a huge margin, 70% or more, people outside the church chose words like judgmental, hypocritical, too political, anti-homosexual. And I don't know that we have greatly improved on that in the 20 years hence as a church. And I'm not trying to bring us down. I'm actually trying to say, if you think about it, this brand that the church has, it actually creates an opportunity for us. Because as I said, people notice when you're off-brand, when you act, speak, dress in a way that feels surprising and unexpected. And so if this is how the world sees us, guess what? We have an opportunity to surprise them with God's love. When we include someone who they think we would exclude, when we listen, when they think we disagree, when we are patient and kind and forgiving, when we genuinely help in sacrificial ways those around us, people take notice and say, wait a second, that's not what I thought the church was. We can't necessarily change how they view the church. And ultimately, that's not even what it's about. It's not about making us look good. It's about pointing them to a God who has loved them their whole life long, and perhaps opening a window so that they might experience, discover, want to be in relationship with that God. That's what it's about. And ultimately, let me just pause. Jesus, right? He did this because he acted in ways that were completely unexpected. He didn't conform to the image that people had for rabbis or religious leaders. He hung out with people who were riffraff and marginalized and sinners. I mean, he modeled an unexpected love and grace. And the early church took their cues from him. The early church at the beginning didn't have a great reputation in Roman society. You know, early Christians were persecuted. They didn't bow the knee to Caesar, acknowledge him as Lord. They didn't participate in pagan festivals. There were rumors and gossip about Christians that we were even cannibals because we ate and drank the blood and flesh of others. Like that was their understanding of communion. There was a lot of misperceptions. So how did Christians overcome that? Well, it wasn't a slick marketing campaign. That's not how the early church did it. They actually did it through two plagues that swept, pandemics, in the 1st and 2nd century that swept through the Roman Empire. And these plagues were devastating. And people, when people in their community and their towns got sick, they would flee their homes, leaving behind their loved ones if they were sick because they didn't want to get sick themselves. It was a death sentence. And who stayed behind? Christians. Christians tended to the sick. They buried those who passed away with dignity, in some cases laying down their own lives for it. They were an uncommon community of unconditional love. And the world noticed. And through them, they were drawn to Christ. That's what we're called to do. And so the third thing, and this is kind of the simple thing, is the hard thing too, is that we must conform our lives to the brand of Christ. Because Christ gave his disciples a brand. In the Last Supper, the prayer that Mary just read for us a little bit ago, right before that prayer, he washed their feet. And he said to them, a new commandment I give you, you must love one another. And then he said, this is how the world will know who you are, when you love one another. That's the brand that Christ gave us. As I said, Jesus had a brand. He had a reputation. He didn't conform to people's expectations of what a Messiah would be. He clashed with religious leaders. He broke Sabbath laws. And even though Jesus was consistent in who he was and in his relationship with God, he was completely in control of his character. His reputation, he was not. Because his enemies took his words and twisted them. And they spread false rumors about him. And they turned the crowds against him that went from cheering Hosanna to crying, crucify. And yet even that moment, Jesus' death on the cross, that became the defining brand. The defining moment, not only of Jesus' life, but of his movement. This, Jesus said, is what is required. If anyone wants to be my disciple, let him take up the cross, deny himself, herself, and follow me. We are called to conform our lives to the shape of a cross, to display the same love, trust, and hope that Jesus displayed for the sake of the world. You have a brand. And that brand is bigger than just simply how you act, dress, talk. It's bigger than any of that. Remember when we talk about brand as if it's a marketing campaign, but the original source of that word brand, if you think about it, it's from when cattle ranchers or whoever used to brand animals, to sear them with a mark so that everyone would know who they belong to. You know that brand, right? Yellowstone, Dutton Ranch, right? If you've seen the show, they don't just mark cattle with it. They also mark the cowhands who work on the ranch. And you think, oh, that's barbaric, and it is. Let me tell you, once that brand is on, it can't be removed. And it's not just a symbol of ownership. It's a symbol of belonging. And the same is true of the cross. When we experience the unconditional, amazing, infinite love of God given to us through the cross. It does something. It sears our soul. It can't be changed. It can't be removed. It marks us. You have a brand because you've been bought with a price. You belong to God, and you are part of this community. And Jesus died for us so that we might live for him. So let us live into this brand, this gift of grace, this gift of love that we have received, and share it boldly and joyfully with the world around us in his name. Amen. Amen.